Thank you for joining us, everyone. This is Rebecca Kahak. I am the Re in the last remark.
And I am Marcus Jewett. I am the Mark in the last remark. And welcome to episode number 3. Hopefully you've had a chance to check out our first 2 episodes. We do have them available on our YouTube channel, and they will soon be available on the podcast platforms, whether Spotify, Apple Music, etc. But make sure you follow us at The Last Remark Podcast, and as our handle for all social media platforms across the board. So really looking forward to it. All right, Rebecca, let's do some kitchen table talk to kick it off before we dive into the meat, because we have a lot to talk about today. Where do you start?
How about you first? What's going on in your world?
Well, again, we don't want The Last Remark to be just another news outlet, right? We want to touch on various aspects of life. So in that respect, let's just touch on some life. Wow. So about a year and a half ago, I finally got to a place where I noticed that I couldn't see as well as I used to. Let's call it age kicking in just a tad bit. Anyway, so I went and got the LASIK procedure done, and based on the recommendation of the doctor, I did what they call blended LASIK, and this is where they basically adjust one eye. So I had my left eye adjusted to see mid-range and far, and they kept my right eye the same, which could see mid-range and close. I know it sounds like I'm a bionic man or something.
Well, it sounds to me like you might be walking around in a circle.
Yeah, right? So anyway, listen, the transformation was good. And people who are on the fence about LASIK, let me tell you, it is a game changer. I know it's not for everybody, but you are literally in that room where they do the procedure for all of 10 minutes for first eye. I only had one eye done, so I may have been in the room for like 5 minutes, but that's it. That's literally the time it took for them to do the procedure. Now, reason I'm bringing this up is that I'm like a year and some change into this LASIK. And back in November, I took my son to Disney World, and we were, cruising down the highways. And I noticed that as I was looking at, signs on the freeway, I couldn't really read them until I got like right up on them. I'm like, wait a minute, I just got freaking LASIK. Why is this happening? And it's like, this isn't happening in my hometown of Austin. And I remember it's like, well, shit, I'm driving from memory, right? I know where I'm going, so I can use landmarks and other things to help me determine to get off with it on. But when I was driving in a strange area, I couldn't see as well. And I had my son like, Dad, you can't see that? It's Mickey Mouse Lane. I'm like, now I can. So nevertheless, I'm going in a couple of weeks to do my 1-year adjustment. And so I went and got some new measurements and to make a few adjustments. And hopefully this turns out well. It's kind of, he made this analogy. It says like, turning jeans into shorts. And once you cut it's short, you can't go back. So
that's correct.
He wanted to make certain that, when I made this secondary adjustments, that it was where I needed to go. So anyway, looking forward to that.
I have a question about it. What's the downtime on a procedure like that?
Oh, no. I mean, literally, so I typically go in the morning. And when you get there, they give you a Valium and a couple other pills, and they, obviously numb your eye. And what you have to do is you have to go home. You have to sleep for like 4, maybe 6 hours in total darkness. So when you go home, let's say I start at 10, right? Home by noon. I sleep from like noon to 6 o'clock. And when I wake up, I'm fine. So the only thing you have to do is you have to take a series of eye drops regularly for the first month, and they'll send you all with a goodie pack with all the stuff you need. And then of course there's an inherent sense of like awareness and just fear, right? Like you don't want anything or anyone close to your eyes. So I would always, even if I was close to people, I was always kind of mindful to keep a certain distance, but no real downtime other than that. But hey, looking forward to it. I think it's going to be a great adjustment and just overall quality of life. I tried the glasses things. It wasn't for me, homie. I just couldn't do it. I tried. I swear to God, I tried. That shit just did not work for me. before I hear your kitchen table talk, I just got one more plug or one more thing I want to talk about.
Yeah.
This week, or next weekend, I am doing the MS 150. For those of you who are aware, it is a 2-day or unaware, it's a 2-day bike ride. It starts here in Austin, Texas. We'll ride about 75 miles to LaGrange, Texas. Um, there's a fairground site where many of the bikers will camp and stay for overnight. And then we start day 2 from LaGrange to College Station. So when it's all said and done, it's going to be about 170 or so miles. So from Austin to LaGrange and from LaGrange to College Station, we finish at the Texas A&M football stadium and
That would be Kyle Field.
rare celebratory stuff. But I did this ride last year, and last year I trained for it. This year I ain't done no training. I mean, if Peloton counts,
Feeling cold.
got my black ass on the trail. And, out on the road. I think I'm on twice. So this time last year, I probably had 300 miles in. This year, probably about 7.
You're probably more fit this year, though, than you were last year.
Yeah, well, I haven't, I made a conscious decision so far this year not to drink. So that's been really helping. Just my overall endurance and stamina. So we'll see how it goes. But anyway, I'm doing the ride. So.
Awesome. You're doing the damn thing. All right, man. I will pray for safety and endurance for you to finish the race in which you have started. That's awesome. Good for you. Good for you. Have you made your goal yet of fundraising?
So you have a minimum goal of $400. That is what gets you into the door to say that you're actually eligible to race. I have some amazing friends, and I know many of them are listening to this podcast or watching this podcast. And let me say thank you very much. I'm right now at $1,960.
That's awesome.
I am well above, and I think I've raised probably well over double what I did last year.
Yeah.
We are riding with a group of about 7 folks, teams Body by Akeem DC.
Very nice.
It's my personal trainer, and he also runs his own personal training outfit called Bodies by Akeem. So check him out if you're looking for a trainer in the greater Austin area.
That's right.
All right, that was a lot for me to unpack. What's up with you, girl?
So today is Sunday. Tomorrow morning, I am flying out to San Francisco for a security conference, RSA conference, for anybody else who might also be out there. Okay. Back in 2020, my boss, who I've had for 12 years, I think, Abigail Maines, she and I, we co-founded a women's organization called Fierce, and Fierce stands for Females in Every Role Change Everything. And so we had our first in-person event last year at RSA. We had a little happy hour. We probably had about 15 women who joined us. This year, we're hosting a breakfast, and we have some wonderful co-sponsors. We've got AMD, Hidden Layer, and 1011 are our co-sponsors this year. And we are rounding the corner on about 200 people who've registered to join us. And this time we opened it up for both men and women. And because our male allyship is super important to us, we can't do what we do without our male allyship. And one of the best things that we get out of our male allyship is when job requisitions open up and companies are looking to fill those job recs with women, with strong women, then they come to us and ask for some candidates. And so that's it. So anyway, so we're going to be hosting a breakfast on Tuesday morning, and I'm super, super excited about that. It's just another way for us to just continue to keep growing. So we'll be sure and leave you guys way to contact us on the page, but essentially it's fiercenow.org. So that's our website, and then that's also how you find us on LinkedIn and Instagram, TikTok, and that's we've been growing. We've been growing that base. We're at about, I think we're right at 1,300 people who are following us on LinkedIn, and so that's a good number. We were super excited when we finally hit 1,000. So I think our next big goal maybe by the end of 24 if we could get up to 5,000 followers, that would be incredible. So, yeah, we've just been steadily growing. Because what we were doing was every company we went to, we've been to 4 companies together, and every company we went to, we would start a women's organization. And so we decided one day, hey, let's stop starting one for every company that we're at. And let's just create this one, and everywhere we go, then people can join us in the fold, and we don't have to reinvent the wheel every time. So, anyways, that's super exciting.
Wow.
We'll be doing that.
Well, I've been following you, and I think, first of all, it's amazing that you have taken this journey and created this space and this forum, this network for women, and you're allowing and opening it up for men to be allies and support. And I mean, I'm not surprised. It's what you do, right? I mean, you're all about empowering other people, and
Love it.
that's one of the things that has always made me look at you as a mentor and just an overall inspiration. So, remind me again, how do you follow you on LinkedIn and Instagram? What's the handle again?
Fiercenow.org.
Fiercenow.org. All right. I'll tell you, when you get a chance.
Marcus, are you following me?
Girl, I'm following you. I'm following you like a caboose on a train, girl. Come on now. I got it.
We down like 4 flat tires.
Hey, yeah, we definitely, that's right. That's it. All right.
I'm not ready. I am not ready for this next topic. Dang it, I'm not ready for this next topic.
Well, it has been a very just sad and tragic set of events over the last several days, really the last week and a half, across the nation as it relates to senseless gun violence. And in many of these cases, it's dealing with young children as young as 9 or years old, 6 years old.
Yep.
And I mean, it was once upon a time where these gun tragedies would happen, and you could, digest it and try to learn and understand what happened. And, it's 2 years before something of that magnitude would happen again. We're just in a world where this shit's happening. Before we can even get done reading the news story of one, something else has happened. So I tell you what, if you don't mind, Rebecca, can you just kind of catalog off the more recent events and set the foundation for the rest of our dialogue?
Yeah, let's do that. So let's take it back just a little bit to maybe a couple of months ago. There was a young boy. He was 6 years old, and he got he got a loaded gun that his mom kept in their home for protection, and he took it to school, and he shot his teacher.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So that was sort of reverse, right? Normally the conversation is talking about protecting kids from violence, but here was a scenario where the child himself was the perpetrator of the violence.
Yeah.
Okay. So then most recently, like in the last 2 weeks, we've had a series of incidences. You had the 16-year-old young man who went to the wrong home, rang the doorbell, and the elderly gentleman, no words exchanged, just shot him. He was Black. He was, 5'8", about 140 pounds, 16 years old. If any of you know 16-year-old kids who weigh 140 pounds, they're just skinny, scrawny little things. My son used to be that person, right? The young man was shot in the head originally, and then while he was on the ground, the elderly gentleman shot him a second time in the arm. He crawled to 3 different neighbors' homes. The first 2 neighbors that he went to ask for help, nobody came out. Nobody offered any sort of assistance. The third home he went to, they didn't open the door, but they did call 911. And then when they realized that he was, a young man who was truly injured and in need of assistance, they did come out and offer assistance. Now, we'll get into the commentary about that in a minute. Let's just keep going. Then there was here in Texas, a group of young cheerleaders that had been practicing in one part of outside of Austin, essentially, and then they needed to drive back to a suburb of Houston. And before they made it back to Houston, they decided to stop at an HEB. And they went into the store, did their business, come back out to the car. Unfortunately, they went to the wrong car. The car that they were getting into was a red car, and they were probably parked in close proximity to one another. So the girls just made, again, a very simple mistake. She opened the wrong door. When she realized the mistake, there was a man who was in the car who was doing drugs. She said, "I'm sorry." She backed up, and he, yeah, I have no information on why he behaved the way that he did, why his reaction was the way it was. But he got out of the car and then shot her and a friend. And so the one young gal, she is, in the hospital still. They are hoping that she will make a full recovery. So we'll see what the aftermath of her injuries are. Then there was another scenario where there were 4 teenagers that were driving in upstate New York. They got into, it was a very rural part of town, and their cell service had run out. So this, again, it aids in the story of they went to the wrong house. They drove into a driveway, realized it was the wrong house. They started to back out, but it was too late. The owner of that home came out onto his second-story balcony and fired 2 shots, and it killed one of the young women that was in the car. And again, because they were in this rural part of town with no cell service, they couldn't call for help. They had to keep driving. So she is literally dying in the car while they were trying to get her to a safer place, in a place for help. Okay, then let's move over to Alabama. There was recently a Sweet 16 party where after about an hour of the party being underway, the mom turned off the music. She turned on the lights, and she said, "Hey, there are rumors. There are people in this party that may have weapons, and I want to let you know that it is not that kind of a party. So if you are somebody who has a weapon, please excuse yourself, and you're not allowed to be here." And then sometime after that, again, completely unaware of the minute details of this, but at some point in time, shots rang out, and I believe it was 4 kids that were shot and killed, and several others were wounded. Then we fast forward to, I think, Tuesday or Wednesday of this week. There was a little girl, I don't remember, somewhere in North Carolina, little girl playing basketball in her yard. Her basketball somehow gets out of her yard and into a neighbor's yard. Young white girl. She and her dad go to retrieve the basketball, and the black gentleman who lives in the home shoots the dad, and one of the fragments of the bullets lodged in the cheek of the young girl, and I think she was 4,
Yeah.
4 or 6, somewhere in between those ages, very young, and so she had to get stitches, but she's going to be okay. They were able to remove the fragment, and they are hoping that the dad will make a full recovery. And then we wake up today to another story. Last night at a prom party, also in Texas, 9 teenagers were shot and wounded. And I just, and again, we're not talking like this. This didn't take years to happen. This was all the majority of it was within the last couple of weeks. The only one that wasn't the last 2 weeks was the one where the 6-year-old kid shot his teacher. That was like a couple of months ago. But it's a daily occurrence, and we're gonna discuss this in a minute. But and I want to leave everybody with some hope that on the last remark, we don't just want to sensationalize horrible stuff. We want to offer up ways that you can get involved, ways that you can help. But also, the commentary that I was really wanting the message that I want to drive home is, we can't become numb to these stories, and we can't turn our heads because it's so ugly, and we just don't want to live in that space every day because, you can't close your eyes and expect that the problem's just going to go away. You have to be a part of the solution.
Well, I think, when you look at some of our elected officials, they do. They just, hey,
Thoughts and prayers.
right? Thoughts and prayers.
Thoughts and prayers.
And it's kind of banter back and forth. Whose fault? Tighter gun laws, smarter gun reform. And then it fizzles out because some other news story breaks that creates a news cycle. And then now at this point, it's like, it seems like every other day or once a week, we have another situation. And yeah, I think people have gotten, America's gotten numb to it. Like I even with my son, he's 14 years old, and I would have imagined the average teenager that was in high school, like when Columbine happened, this would have been something that would have made its way through the schools, and there would have been a conversation that would have had to happen at that time back in what 99. Just to see if how kids were affected or impacted or if they have concerns about it, and just to reassure them that our schools are safe. And now today, I feel like many of our kids, the way they grew up with iPhone, they've grown up with a culture that they can expect this type of event to happen. So whether it's at a school or whether it's at somebody's house or a church or a mall or a grocery store, this has become an American way of life. And let me say this really quick. I believe in the Second Amendment. I am a registered gun owner. I have a couple, one for recreation and one for protection from my home. But I am not a gun, what's the word I'm looking for? Like, I don't sensationalize them, or I don't sit there and think, oh my God, the government come to get me and take my gun, and they're doing it in some kind of attempt to, subjugate the people. That's not how my mindset is wired. I know some people are, and I'm not trying to show any disrespect there, but this problem that we're having, Rebecca, those stories that you just outlined, that doesn't happen anywhere else.
No,
Any
no other country.
civilized country,
Yeah.
there is no other civilized country that has that problem. That is an American problem uniquely.
Yeah.
And because so many of our elected officials, they use this, they pit us against each other, right? And for the one side that is all about gun rights and gun advocacies, they make the other side seem like they're just a bunch of monsters coming to, take your guns. And on the other side, they're pushing for smarter gun laws and background checks, universal checks, and, age limits, things that, things that make sense, things that may not stop these things from happening, Rebecca, but can at least bring them down, right?
Yeah.
You can't tell me that you're not old enough to drink at 21, but you're old enough to buy a semi-automatic weapon that can hold, 20 bullets or 20 rounds. You're mature enough for that, but you're not mature enough to have an alcoholic beverage. So, again, I don't want to center and make this thing like it's another gun debate. You can watch that shit on MSNBC on one extreme and Fox on the other. We get that, but something's got to change.
Yeah, I mean, I would say I know a lot of people are just looking for us to be a little more sensible with, red flag laws. And quite honestly, I just don't think that civilians need to have automatic rifles. I don't know that's not necessary.
Even semi-automatic, it's a debate there, right? It's a debate because even semi-automatics, automatic weapons are not legal in America, but semi-automatic weapons are.
Yeah. So when we talk about responsible gun ownership, if we look at that for a second, the 6-year-old who took a loaded gun to school, he shouldn't have access to a loaded gun. Right, that's responsible ownership. Is that they're locked away in an area where children can't access them. That's super, super egregious, in my opinion. And I guess let me also give an allegedly blanket statement to all of the things that we're saying. I'm merely quoting off of other news stories, and just quickly summarized, so that we can have this conversation. And then the older gentleman, this one is interesting, right? Because he's like, I was terrified. He was like, I thought somebody was breaking into my house. Well, typically people don't ring a doorbell to break into your home. Right? Yeah. That's not a typical. So that's really interesting to me that he was so terrified. No words were exchanged. He never said, what are you doing here? What do you want? How can I help you? None of no words were exchanged whatsoever. He literally opened the door, saw a black person, and shot to kill.
and I want to pause on that story real quick because the grandson of that man, that 85, 86-year-old man, he actually gave an interview to a couple of news outlets, and they said that the young man or the grandson said that his grandfather displayed racist tendencies, made racist comments, and aligned himself with a lot of extreme groups whose values were centered, or lack of values were centered around bigotry and racism and intolerance and, supremacy of their own kind. So,
I think even
right, hey, knock, knock, I want to rob you. Are you voting?
yeah. Yeah, I think one of the other comments that the son made that I think is also really interesting, especially with the timing of the Dominion lawsuit, where they settled the lawsuit, because one of the other things that the grandson said was that his grandfather, who by the way he stopped having a relationship with because of his ideology on his race being superior, he said that he sits around and consumes a diet, if you will, of news media that is banking on fear and conspiracy.
Oh, yeah.
Right. So so then it makes sense that so again, as we look at responsible gun ownership, could that be something also very, very interesting that Fox does not have to admit what they did publicly. And I find that little detail so very interesting. Okay, so then the black gentleman who shot the father and the little 6-year-old girl, I think also very similar. Like he just saw 2 white people on his property that he just didn't want and didn't like, and and so I really want us to, I guess we talked about red flag laws, and I think that's important. I think a waiting period is important. And I think, I had a girlfriend, we had a conversation just this past week. She suggested something that I'd never considered before, but you know how like you have a vehicle, you are required to have auto insurance. Why not insurance for any sort of weapons?
Yeah, that's a good point. I haven't had the chance to think of. I've never heard that argument before, so I'm sitting here trying to process it real time to see.
Okay, so think about the older gentleman. Like, like what happens if you've got dementia?
Well, I look at it like this, right? I look at it more so along the lines that I think here's a better analogy, right? You have to get your driver's license renewed every 4 years or whatever.
Totally.
Right? So I think that is probably a better, model of testing, or just to make certain a person has the right mindset is, like if let's say you purchase a gun and 5 years later you have to come in or you have to take some type of an assessment just to check and see, right? That gives you an opportunity, the law enforcement or the background checks, to say, hey, has this person committed any? Because you could have a clean record, right? Commit some type of, maybe not a felony, but you may have a series of misdemeanors or something that would lend itself to say this person is going down the wrong path, and maybe them having, an arsenal of weapons, readily available may not be the right case. So maybe whether it's insurance or when you are able to buy a gun, make certain that you're a registered gun owner, but that registration, or let's call it that license to own a gun, doesn't last indefinitely, right? There's at some point in the future, you might need to go through a series of checkpoints to make certain that you still have the right mindset to be a lawful owner of a firearm in America. Just something to think about.
Yeah, exactly. And I know a lot of parents today, and so just in case you are not in the habit of doing this, hopefully this is a great idea for you, but I know a lot of parents today that before their kids are allowed to go to other people's homes, for play dates, sleepovers, things of that nature, parents will often check in with the other parents and ask, do you have any weapons in your home? If the answer is yes, how are those properly put away, for safekeeping, so that not only my child, but any other child that might be there will not have access to it.
Right. No, again, I think this we're in a very unique situation with gun violence in America, and it only seems to be scaling. And I know it's easy for news outlets to sensationalize and call attention, but we're not talking about somebody who just accidentally fired a gun and maybe it hit somebody. We're talking about, in many cases, people intentionally
Yeah.
intentionally fired at people without warrant, without merit, unnecessarily, because you thought somebody was on your property.
Yeah.
Somebody ring your doorbell at 10:30 at night, and your first instinct is to start blasting.
And it wasn't 10:30. It was like a quarter to 10. But yes,
Okay, yeah.
same thing though, right? Like I think, it,
It's
and I have a lot more empathy for those three families that little Ralph rang the doorbell on, and they didn't answer. They wouldn't open their door. I have a lot more empathy for those folks than I do for the elderly man who opened fire, right? Because in my mind, like that's the right thing to do. If it's 10 o'clock at night and you're getting ready for bed and like something about somebody ringing your doorbell just doesn't feel right, I get it. Don't answer your doorbell. And hopefully you have one of those fancy doorbells today where that has video on it. That's what I do, right? If I don't want to answer the door, even if it's Saturday afternoon and I'm just relaxing and I don't want to open my door, I'll open up my camera and see who is it. Is this something that I should get up for?
I've been doing that for 5 years. That's pretty
Yeah,
much.
yeah, yeah. And I can have a conversation with him. You can tell somebody, hey, come back another day. Is there something I can help you with? Like, so if somebody is standing there and legitimately bleeding, I can see and I can call 911 for them, even if I feel like it's, because if I have heard gunfire in my neighborhood and then I immediately have a doorbell ring, yeah, that's scary. I'm telling you right here, right now, chances are I'm not going to open the door, but that doesn't mean that I can't still help somebody out who's in need, which is exactly what I would hope that the average American would do, because, I mean, God forbid it is ever yourself or your children.
I mean, it's sad. These are just the stories that have happened.
That have made it to the news. There's so many other stories that never make it to the media.
Exactly. And it used to be a time where, again, something of these nature, the nature of the stories that you just call were like just something that you couldn't even dream of happening. Again, it happens all the time, and that's not even really touching on the large scale mass murders at schools or Vegas or Aurora, Colorado at movie theater. I mean, this is an American problem, and we are the land of the free, the home of the brave. We are the greatest country on the planet, and I say that wholeheartedly as an American.
I agree.
No other country I'd rather live in, but this is an American problem only.
Yeah.
Find a way to address this. We have to find some common ground. And maybe we don't solve it all, Rebecca. Maybe we can't stop every, there was someone made a quote once before that if you're willing to trade your life to murder someone else, it's a good chance you could do it. I totally get it. You're going to have those outliers, people that just have a mental issue, and they understand that event will most likely result in their demise, and they go out and with that understanding. You can't stop everybody, but you can put some guardrails in place. The same way we made changes to how you get on an airplane after 9/11, we can make, and they're inconvenient. Nobody taking the shoes off. Nobody likes all the extra time, but to make certain we won't lose 3,000 Americans because a group of, people from other countries hell-bent on destroying America decide to crash planes into the building. We took action because we needed to take action. We need to do the same thing here. For whatever reason, NRA, political divide, we can't seem to find the slightest bit of common ground.
Right. Right. And it wasn't that long ago, Marcus, that that you could drink and drive, that you could drive without a seatbelt. Like we've made all other kinds of adjustments for other things that were a danger to the general public. So we're not it's not unfounded, um, to sort of change laws to make things safer.
No, no, it's not. I'll call it's call it what it is. It's three little letters in the alphabet,
Yep.
not OPP. It's
No.
NRA.
All right. Yes.
So,
Yeah. Yeah.
well, I would what I would like for us to do here at the last remark is, again, many of our episodes it may just be Rebecca and I, but we want to make certain that we are hearing from our listeners and our viewers. So, moving forward, this topic, unfortunately, is going to be a topic that throughout the duration of our podcast, most likely will have a recurring theme because it just keeps happening. But we do want to get to a point to maybe we could have somebody on that could provide a perspective from maybe a different lens. So I know there's folks that are very liberal about this and they're looking for tighter gun laws, and there is individuals who feel like we want to protect our gun laws, but still, again, I feel like there's space for common ground. I just want to hear both sides of the argument to help come together with a solution. It may not solve the problem, but
right. Yeah, we are absolutely open to hearing the opposing view because, again, maybe you've considered it a way that I'm unaware of it. I would love to hear that. And I promise, I think we both promise to go into any conversation with an open mind. And again, I beg you guys, don't become numb to this story and don't turn your head away, because it is only a matter of time before it is yourself, somebody you love, your children. We can't continue with thoughts and prayers. That's not a solution.
That's not the solution.
It's not a solution. Yeah.
We'll find ourselves back here.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, probably sooner than either of us would like to be, but
yeah. If anybody, and I'm going to open it up there. If anybody out there, you yourself are an expert. Maybe you own a gun shop, a shooting range. We want to hear from you. We want to understand, what your thoughts are. Maybe even law enforcement. I know somebody who's married to a police officer, and we were talking about, especially like here in Texas, where it's open carry and you don't need any sort of certification. It's, it's very, very akin to the Wild Wild West. And, there's so many people that I know who say, we back the blue, and they're, they've got the flag with the blue stripe, hanging on their walls, on their Zoom screens. They've got the sticker on their cars. And I just can't help but think that, like, okay, so if you back the blue, why are you backing this? Because it makes their job so much more dangerous. They don't say, hey, I certainly am glad that everybody can own guns and whatever kind of gun that they want. And boy, I can't wait to go and knock on a door, on a domestic disturbance call. And, I'm so glad that they have guns in there. That's not how that works. So, maybe we get somebody who's a police officer who wants to give their view on that as well. So we offer that up to you guys. So if somebody, send them our way. We would love to have conversations with somebody in that position as well.
Awesome. All right. Well, I think we've touched on that topic as much as possible. Again, just looking for a solution for a smarter, safer, scalable solution to help mitigate one issue in America that is hours and hours alone right now in terms of the nation. All right, Rebecca, it's that time for the last remark. I kicked it off with kitchen table talk, so over to you. What's the last remark?
So my last remark here is, again, let's not turn away from this. Let's lean in and let's be part of the solution. We didn't get it accomplished after Columbine. We didn't get it accomplished after, Sandy Hook, Uvalde, you name it. There's so many. The grocery store in Buffalo. I mean, like, it just seems to never stop. So, but let's not get numb. Let's not turn a blind eye. Let's not pretend like if we don't watch it, it doesn't affect us. And let's lean into it instead. And let's find where can we be, where can we find similarities, where can we agree, and let's band together. I guess quite honestly, then I think my last remark is make sure you're registered to vote. It's so key that we have people representing us that are truly going to be speaking our voices.
Yeah, no, it's so funny because that dovetails directly into my last remark, and that is all about love, understanding, compassion, acceptance, listening. Um, there are many factors that profit off of keeping America divided.
Yeah.
There are factions that want political reasons, power, money. They want the average American at each other, fighting about different political opinions and policies. And that's where it's almost like, hey, don't look at this thing here. Don't look, pay attention to this shiny thing. Keeping the average American at war with one another, and growing this sense of intolerance, and not even seeking to listen and understand, but just seeking to spew and spout. This is my position, and I don't really care what you got to say. And even if it does make sense, and even if it doesn't make sense even if it makes sense to me, I don't want to hear it at all. Or even if the policy that you're putting forth would benefit me long-term, financially, health-wise, healthcare-wise, I don't care. You're associated with people that I don't like, or I've been told and taught to like, so I'm just going to not listen to you. We got to get past this sense of tribalism and find ways to start listening to one another. Just take the time. And if you are someone who considers yourself a hardcore liberal, maybe take a day or a few hours, listen to what they're saying on Fox. Maybe just think, maybe there's something or a different perspective that you'll hear. You're a hardcore conservative, take some time and listen to CNN or MSNBC or a more liberal news outlet. And I get it, you don't always have to go to news, but let me break it down even further than that. Because I feel like just the last 6, 7, 8 years has kind of peeled off a scab and really sensationalized this whole political divide more so than ever, because there are people that I am really freaking close to, really, really close to, that we never had a conversation about political affiliation. We never had a conversation about guns. We never had a conversation around taxes. We never really talked about those things. But then, as over the last several years, when you just seem like this political divide has risen, you see more and more people going to social media and making things, I back Trump because of this, and I back this person because of this, and I think this person is horrible. And it's just like, how? You just never know. So again, bring it all together.
Yeah.
Find time, the space, attempt to seek to understand. I was told a long time ago, you have 2 ears and 1 mouth. And the reason why, you should do twice as much listening as you do talking. Take some time, listen, learn. And I'm not saying you need to change your position. I'm not saying your position wrong, whatever side it is on. But I can tell you one goddamn thing. There is space and room for some middle ground, common sense, policies, legislature that we can move forward. But again, there's a lot of folks that just don't want that middle ground, that common ground to happen.
Yeah.
Keeping us apart.
Right. And we've been united before, man. After 9/11, it was a beautiful time for us to be incredibly united. Same thing after the Boston Marathon bombing. There's several instances where we do know how to come together. So I just implore you to think about the crisis that we're facing today as something as similar as that, right? Terrorists want you to live in fear. That's the whole point. That's why they're called terrorists. is they want to instill that fear in you, and let's not let the terrorist win here.
Let's not let the fear mongers win.
Yeah.
A lot of cases, those unfortunately, a lot of cases are elected officials. All right. Well, listen. Thank you for listening to episode 3 of The Last Remark. We're going to continue to build upon this, and I promise you, we're only going to get bigger and better as we move forward. We're just really stoked about this opportunity.
Yeah. Thanks for hanging in there with us. We appreciate it.
Yeah, totally. So check it out. A couple of things. Next week, or episode 4, we have the opportunity to interview Mackenzie Kelly. She is the only Republican on the Austin City Council. So talk about walking into the lion's den. But we are going to use this time to get our perspective on a myriad of topics, including affordable housing and just the impact it's had with people moving to Austin. We're going to talk about policing. We're going to talk about homelessness, a lot of things. And if you feel like there's something, we still have time because we haven't had the actual interview yet. But if there's anything you want us to drill into, leave a comment on our YouTube channel or on our Instagram page. And if we can incorporate that talk track, we will totally do that. But Rebecca, any final words?
No, just Mackenzie, we will see you next week. We're excited. We want to hear from you.
Yeah, remember, follow us at The Last Remark Podcast. I'm going to say it again, at The Last Remark Podcast. That is how you find us on Instagram, YouTube, even Facebook. And be sure to listen to us audio podcast platforms on Spotify and Apple Music. So on behalf of Rebecca Kayak, I'm Marcus Jude. I guess The Last Remark, we're signing off.
Peace.
Peace.